Hello and welcome. Today you are going to experience an introductory recode. And this is a foundational piece of the training because an introductory recode allows you to continue through the rest of the modules. It allows you to attend the live calls and to be able to participate fully in the experience and actually have all of the aspects of your consciousness on board. So essentially, we're going to cover what a recode is. We're going to cover some different parts of your consciousness, some aspects of your consciousness. We're going to talk about the superconscious, and we're going to talk about how everything fits together in order to create a more unified, a more streamlined, and a more authentic version of you as you let go of resistance and step into a more authentic and aligned version of yourself. So let's get started. A superconscious recode is a process that teaches you to connect to a part of yourself that's called the superconscious. And that's the part of you, the superconscious is the part of you that created all of your memories. It can treat emotion, and it's also always been there. It's been there with you your whole entire life. It's not a trance. It's actually something that you can do on yourself. A recode is actually something that can be learned. If you've ever heard of the book, You're Not Broken by our mentors, Chris Duncan, he teaches you how to do the recode in that book. However, it's a lot easier and more enjoyable to have a coach work with you and to do the recode for you. The reason for that is it's similar to when you go out to a restaurant. Oftentimes a cook is more skilled at the dish that they're making. They've got all the appropriate types of equipment that is needed to make that fancy restaurant meal. They've got, all of the different ingredients, and they just have more experience and practice making it. Doesn't mean you can't do it yourself. It just might not turn out the same way. So I highly enjoy experiencing a recode from other coaches, and I believe that you probably will too. But just know that this is a process you can do on yourself. So learning to do a superconscious recode or to receive one definitely presents no danger to you. There's many ways for you to block treatment, and you're in total control the whole time. And again, it's not a trance. There's no hypnosis involved, nothing like that. So to ensure that we get all the parts of you to work together, there's some education that you need to learn just once, which is why you're watching this video. And then after that, you'll be able to work with any magnetic mind coach, including the rest of the coaches in the Soma Tribe, in order to make fast, easy progress in overcoming your resistance. Let's get started. So you're made up of a main personality and then many different sub-personalities and aspects. And when all of those aspects are working together, we can use this method, the Superconscious Recode, to easily let go of any resistance that's stopping you from experiencing satisfaction in your life, including stopping you from moving towards your goals and reaching the exact weight or the lifestyle or the relationship or career that you're striving for. So when we're connecting to the superconscious memory, it's essentially a memory that has been present before you were born, and it's been passed down through your family. When you give me permission to connect, or you give any magnetic mind coach permission to connect to your superconscious, I connect because at the superconscious level, we are one. So let's look at what that looks like. Here's you with your superconscious field. I'm actually going to write that a little bigger. This is you in your superconscious field, and you inherited your superconscious field from your family. This is your family's superconscious field. It was passed down to you before you were even born. Here's the coach, my superconscious field. And I inherited a different superconscious field from my family, which was also passed down to me before I was born. When I connect to your superconscious field during a session, what I'm doing is I'm actually connecting to the overall unified superconscious field. We're connecting here on a bigger level because at the superconscious level, we are all one. So when I connect to the superconscious, I can access different aspects that are causing resistance in your experience and what you're trying to create in your life. And I can share commands to ask your superconscious to treat the emotion, the pain, the beliefs that are causing that resistance and leave the wisdom. So on the superconscious field of information, we are one. And it is a field of information. Field of information that was passed down from your family to you. And overall, everybody, all humans live within the greater superconscious field of information. So with that superconscious field of information, we actually have three memories. So now we're going to talk about the formation of the main personality and then the sub-personalities in our memory. So a superconscious memory is a memory that is physiological. It's passed down through the family, and it's a field structure that informs your cells and your DNA, how to act, what to turn on, and what to turn off. We refer to this as memory number one. So I'm going to draw a timeline of your life. Here's prior to you being conceived. And then we've got conception. We've got birth. Four years old, and then we've got your present day life. This is not to scale, but you get the idea. So your superconscious memory was present before you were born, because again, it was passed down, this field of information was passed down from your family line. We refer to this as memory number one. It's your superconscious memory. It's with you your whole lifetime. Now, we also have an unconscious memory, and that forms shortly before you're born. We refer to the unconscious as memory number two. The unconscious memory is, it communicates with you in feelings, it runs your body, and it's easily trained to interpret symbols like language through repetition. It can also automate complex tasks like driving a car or playing a sport. So this is memory number two, and it was formed before your birth. So while you were in the womb, you had to have all of your different cells, your skeletal system, your lungs, your heart, everything had to start growing. And the heart has to start beating even before you are out into the world. So your unconscious was the memory, which actually learned how to keep your heart beating and your blood pumping even before you had a personality and you were actually able to breathe air and talk. So some of our memories don't even have language attached to them because they were created before we had the ability to have language. They were created in the womb. So that's memory number two, unconscious. And we also have a self-conscious memory. And that's our ego. It's what I'm speaking to you with right now. The self-conscious is most likely what you're listening to this video with right now. It's our thinking brain. It's our conscious experience. And this is referred to as memory number three. It forms right around, 3 to 4 years old. And that's your self-conscious. So you'll notice that on your timeline, your superconscious is inherited before you were conceived, because this field of information had to actually inform your cells how to start to fit together, how to, the little sperm and the egg when conception happens, how the cells are to divide and which ones are to form the skeletal system, which ones are to form the skin, which ones are to form the organs, the eyes, the circulatory system. There's a field of information, the superconscious, which informed your cells on how to do that. if you peel back the layers and do any research into DNA, you will see that there is no piece of DNA, no DNA strand, which actually is like the master key to telling your cells how to interact together. And that's why it's very fascinating if you start looking into that work, because essentially this is the master key, the superconscious. It's what's telling your body kind of how to operate as you're conceived. Now your unconscious, memory number 2, you don't have to remember the numbers, by the way. Your unconscious memory, that is formed right before you're born. And it's keeping all of your unconscious processes happening. So even right now, as you're watching this video, your heart is beating, you're breathing air without even really thinking about it. If you've eaten some food, your digestive system is working on that. And that's your unconscious that's doing all the work. If you think about when you learn to drive a car, when you first had to learn to drive a car, when you first learned to play a sport, you had to put all of your focus and your attention into what you were doing. You had to consciously try and run faster in order to catch a ball, or calculate exactly where it was going to be coming from, you know, if you're playing baseball or something, or even just to catch a frisbee. You know, it's something that you do have to learn how to position yourself depending on the angle of the frisbee. And the same thing with driving a car. Now that you've had some practice doing it, your unconscious has learned that. And have you ever had the experience where you've been driving for over an hour and you all of a sudden like look down at your clock and you're like, oh my God, I don't even remember how I got here. Like, I'm happy to be here, hopefully. But you don't remember focusing on the road at all. Maybe you were engrossed in like an audiobook, or maybe you were just listening to some songs or talking to your passenger and you don't remember the last 60 miles. That's because your unconscious was handling all the rest of the things, monitoring the other cars on the road. It was helping you, you know, use the appropriate turn signal, use more gas or use more brake, whatever the case may be. And you didn't have to put a ton of thought into it, like when you first were learning to drive a car and you couldn't have the radio playing and you wanted all your passengers to be quiet and you had to adjust the seat just right. And you were constantly scanning to make sure, you know, you're inside the lines of the road. That's your unconscious that has learned all of that additional information, and it's helping you navigate the world. So it helps us out in our daily life, and it also helps our internal processes. And then again, our self-conscious, that is our ego. That's our thinking brain. It's our conscious experience. That's what we use to make plans, to set goals. It's what we use to communicate with most of the time. And the self-conscious really just wants to have a satisfaction and a greater experience of life. So now let's talk about how our main personalities are forming and how we begin to split into repressing some of those different memories that we've got. So your main personality starts forming at birth or sometime before that. We've talked about that. And all of your memories are stored in that main personality. So even before you're born, you're starting to form some memories that are going into your main self-conscious personality. And your self-conscious is making the decisions most of the time. However, as your memories are forming, sometimes parts are created through trauma or through pain that disrupt the main personality. And they cause that self-sabotage that we experience sometimes. They cause pain where we're emotionally upset, and sometimes we know why, sometimes we don't. Have you ever had the experience of someone saying something and it really just caused like a full body kind of like a shift inside your body, where you just felt an overwhelming sense of emotion, which was far greater than it needed to be for, you know, the comment that somebody made? That is because you're having an experience, you're having a trauma response. The same thing happens when we have too much pain that we've experienced, or the pain is passed down from our family. The parts can be kind of amnesic to the main personality. So maybe there's something hidden away that you don't really have access to, but you can kind of feel it from time to time, that uneasy feeling, and you don't quite know why. Or maybe you just are living life in a certain way and you don't even realize that you've got some unconscious aspects of yourself which are driving the show, which are causing you to act and think in a specific way. So some of these parts can live in the active experience, and some of them are in conflict with the main personality. The experience of when you're in a conversation with somebody and all of a sudden something comes out of your mouth and you're just like, oh my God, I did not mean to say that. That is just an aspect or a part of your personality, which kind of came forward at that moment. And your conscious, your self-conscious was not meaning for you to actually share that information, but that sub-personality or that different part just kind of jumped in and stole the show. Hopefully not to your detriment too much. That has happened to me for sure. So when you are interacting with people at work, here's another example of like just kind of the different aspects or pieces of our personality. When you're interacting with people at work, you might show up and speak to them differently than you would speaking to your dog when you're at home. You know, when you hang out with your family, you're going to have a different level of relaxation and a different level of different way of interacting with your family. Maybe the way you treat your mom or talk to your mom is different than how you treat your brothers and sisters or talk to them. Those are just different parts of your personality. They're still all you, but you show up differently depending on different situations, depending on which part is going to fit best. And with the Superconscious Recode, what we're going to do is we're going to help all of those parts integrate so that you can show up authentically in all different situations of life. So let's talk about how some of these parts get activated. So in your experience, in your active experience, your conscious memory that's happening right now, this is going to be a representation of your active experience. You have got an unconscious aspect, and you've got a self-conscious aspect. So again, right now in your active experience, you're watching this video, you're listening, you're learning, you're using your self-conscious in order to interpret this information. But right now in your active experience, you are digesting food, or your heart is pumping blood and your circulatory system is doing its job. Your immune system on some level is doing what it needs to do to keep your body healthy and to take care of any dis-ease or any type of inflammation in the body. So you've got unconscious, oh, I forgot the S, unconscious processes that are happening in your active experience. When you think about it, you're like, oh yeah, my heart is beating, hopefully. But most of the time you don't really think about it. They're just happening automatically in your active experience. Now, outside of your active experience, you've got these dormant memories. And they're not in your active experience. Some of them are unconscious and some of them are self-conscious when you pull them up. So I'm going to ask you a question. And before I ask you that question, that memory, that's the answer to the question, is actually going to be in your outside of your active experience. It will not be here. Because I haven't asked you the question yet, you don't know what it is, so you can't pull that memory into your consciousness. Now, think about the last time that you rode a bike. When was the last time you rode a bicycle? You might have to think for a little while, depending on how long it's been. For me, oh my goodness, I rode a bike with my nieces almost a year ago. It's been quite a while. Yeah, I rode my niece's bike, and that memory, even though I actually knew the question I was going to ask, it wasn't in my active experience because I really did have to think about it. So now that you've got an answer to that question, you have pulled that memory of the last time you rode a bicycle into your self-conscious active experience. It was dormant and now it's active because we've talked about it. So that's how conversations happen to bring dormant parts of our memory or dormant parts of our personality into our active experience. Prior to me asking you that question, you wouldn't have been thinking about that. So it didn't need to be active. And that makes sense because we don't need to have all of the information of our whole entire lives and every single bit of preference and our family history and everything like that available right now all the time. We only need it when we need it. So if the pain's too great, or if the pain is passed down from a family member, different parts can be amnesic to the main personality. And this is what happens. So D is just representative of a dormant memory. P is just representative of a dormant part of our personality. So let's say that you're at work and your boss, you're in a meeting with your boss, and it's a board meeting. You've got a number of people who are there, and your boss starts raising their voice, and you start to feel really uncomfortable and you want to flee and leave the room. Regardless of whether it's a male or female, a raised voice can sometimes trigger a dormant part of our personality, and it can remind us of different things that we've experienced in our life where we haven't been safe. Now, that's an example of a part of our personality that wants to protect us being brought into the self-conscious awareness where you realize, oh my gosh, their tone, their demeanor, their energy is making me really uncomfortable. I need to leave. What also happens is we have dormant parts in our unconscious. And when they get triggered, we don't necessarily realize it because they're in the unconscious and they're working kind of quietly in the background. But they do communicate through emotion and through feeling. So an example of that would be, maybe you've had a really hard day at work. You didn't get any time for yourself. Maybe even you worked all the way through lunch, and you just felt really overwhelmed and irritated toward the middle and then the end of the day. What's happening is you go home and you just crash on the couch, and then you roam the pantry for some snacks, and you find some ice cream in the freezer and some chips in the pantry, and you just, want to take a load off. So you put your feet up, you watch some TV, and all of a sudden you look down and you realize you've eaten the rest of the carton of ice cream, and you finished the bag of chips, and you've spent 2 hours watching TV, even though you had other things to take care of when you got home off work. Maybe you still feel upset and frustrated, and you're like, oh, I didn't even eat dinner. I just had this junk food. I better go get dinner. So then you go and you make some dinner, or you get some dinner, but you end up choosing to go through fast food instead of actually going to the grocery store. Or you end up going to the grocery store and you choose some food that's maybe prepackaged or a frozen meal, and it's not truly what your body is going to serve you, but it's most comforting at the time because you're needing a part of your experience to be nurtured. There was a dormant part that felt overlooked, it felt overworked, it felt exhausted, underappreciated, and it was triggered into your unconscious active experience from you working through lunch and from not taking any time for yourself. And now all of a sudden it's causing an emotion, which is you're remedying that emotion by choosing some nurturing, like some comfort foods. Not necessarily you're choosing to nurture yourself through comfort foods, not necessarily nurturing foods, but you see what I'm talking about. That is how experiences get pulled into our unconscious experience. And it doesn't have to be only the unconscious, it can be the self-conscious as well. So maybe you smell a food that reminds you of your childhood. All of a sudden, that part is pulled into your active experience, and you smell it and you crave it, and every fiber of every cell of your body really wants that. And then, you find yourself indulging in it. That is how we tend to be overcome by these different aspects of our personality. And then we think it's self-sabotage, but in reality, it's not. All of the different parts of our personality and all of our different dormant memories are actually there to serve us. They're there to help us sustain life. If you're still alive and you're watching this video right now, which you are, all of those different aspects of yourself have gotten you to this point. They've kept you safe, they've kept you alive, and they've done a really good job of it. So our goal now is to actually have all of those parts, to treat them so that all the different aspects can work together. They can join your main personality, your self-consciousness, and they can all share information. And we do that by removing the emotion of the memory and keeping the content so that the pain that these past parts have experienced is actually turned into wisdom. So you're not actually losing any memories. You're not turning anything off. You're actually just integrating all parts of yourself more fully through a superconscious recode, so that then you can show up and have more of an experience that you want, instead of feeling like the world is causing you to get off track at every single twist and turn. You get to feel like you're in control of your own life. It's really a beautiful experience. The parts and personalities that have been keeping you safe begin to work with what you actually want, with your self-conscious, who wants to have a more enriched and full and satisfying part of your life. And all parts work together to support that. It's beautiful. All right, so we're going to talk about some of the advantages of treatment now. So we talk about a superconscious recode as treatment because during the recode, we do use the command treat, treating different aspects that are causing resistance. So we're going to treat the different aspects that are causing resistance, and it's going to allow you to get more satisfaction and less pain from life. So you're actually going to absolutely be increasing your happiness, increasing your satisfaction, and reducing your pain. You're going to stop intrusions and you're going to stop losing time. Have you ever been at work or at the house, regardless of what you're doing, but all of a sudden you look up from your desk and you're like, did I eat lunch? And you totally have forgotten because you've completely lost time. Maybe you have and maybe you haven't. But at the end of that moment, you're having to think because you've spaced out for that amount of time. The same thing with the analogy earlier when we were talking about driving a car. When you have been so engrossed in doing something else, a different part of your personality has taken over, and you've just the main personality spaced out for that amount of time. Maybe you don't even really feel connected at that for a while. That's a different part of your personality that is taking over. So treatment helps you stop intrusions. It stops the different parts from jumping in, and it also helps you stop losing time. You'll also be able to go for what you actually want in life. So again, these parts are just trying to help you. These different aspects of ourselves are trying to help you, even though they're hijacking what you actually want. So with the superconscious recode, this stops the different aspects that are in the way of you going for what you want. It stops them from hijacking your best efforts. When you have treatment, all of your aspects and parts work together at the same time, and it stops the main personality from hiding information. And basically it stops and keeps everything working together, everything working out at its best. So when we want to make sure that all the different aspects and all the parts of the treatment team are on board. And we call it a treatment team because they will be joining with the main personality in order to drop the resistance, to keep the memories, and to increase happiness. However, sometimes during a superconscious recode, a different aspect or a part of your personality wakes up, and another aspect might even feel like the pain's too great, or maybe the pain will re-traumatize your main personality. So if that happens, we don't force that aspect of yourself to join the treatment team. All we do is we just gently ask the superconscious to have that aspect integrate, and it's always done with respect and with permission. I also want to remind you, and all of the parts that are listening right now, that no parts die during this process. All that we do when we do treatments is we're simply treating the emotion and we're keeping the wisdom. So no part is lost. So I want to make sure that all parts are on the treatment team. And if there's any part that's blocking the treatment process, have this part talk to the superconscious and get all the information that's needed to make an informed decision. If it's not getting all the information because the pain is too great, we just treat a small part, kind of like taking a big boulder. And if it's too big, you can't just break the whole thing apart all at the same time. That's a lot of work. So what we do is we just chisel off a little piece of the boulder, a little at a time, one recode at a time. And we don't have to go too far, just a little bit at a time. So if it's a really big issue, or if it's an issue that you've been dealing with for a really long time, that's stopping you from reaching your goals, or that's stopping a part of you from joining the treatment team, we just work on a little bit of it at a time in order to effortlessly and gently make room for full and complete treatment. Sound good? Great, let's keep going. So finally, as we're having everyone join the treatment team and making sure that all parts are working together, I want to talk to you about treating just the emotion and not the wisdom, and not losing any wisdom. Sometimes we feel like, and actually we've been told through a lot of the different modalities that are out there, that we need to have a part of ourselves actually, to lose a part of ourselves. We've been taught that parts of ourselves are not actually supporting us for our greatest good. We've been taught that we have to get over the traumas that we've experienced in our past. And it's true that we can't hold them at the forefront and we can't stay in the emotion of reliving that trauma, but we don't have to let go of that experience. That experience shaped you. That experience is part of who you are today. And if you can imagine having that experience just as a memory, but without having all of the emotion attached to it, that is what the Superconscious Recode provides. It allows the parts that were created, allows the trauma that was created. It allows all of the amnesic and dormant memories to integrate into you fully. And some of them you may not ever remember, and that's totally okay. But you won't be driven by that feeling of inadequacy, that feeling of insignificance, of worthless, of not belonging, of not being good enough, all of the different experiences that were created from that trauma. So that's what you have to look forward to. All right, so just to review the advantages of treatment again, this process is one of respect, and we desire all parts to choose to let go of resistance. So we've explained the benefits. All parts are always awake, they're always listening. So I'm just going to review the advantages again. So you get more satisfaction and you have less pain. You stop intrusions and personality takeovers. You stop losing time and spacing out. All parts get to run the body at the same time. You stop the main personality from hiding information, and just overall, a mono personality works best. Excellent. Now we're going to talk about a very quick, short little 20-second metaphor that teaches your superconscious how to treat. So the superconscious learns how to treat using an internal treatment process. There's no hypnosis that's happening, no trance is needed. There's no indirect means necessary. I just want you to be aware and alert of what you're hearing right now. This is a very important, quick little metaphor. The treatment process was actually developed by Dr. Gary Flint. If you want to look up any of his books, you don't need to at all, but I just want to give him credit for that. So imagine that your brain is a football field. It's a smooth playing field with no bumps on it. A little bit elongated, but that's okay. So your brain is a football field. It's smooth, there's no bumps on it. When we treat the emotion, well, actually before that, when the phobia or the negative belief or the painful memory or the painful part becomes active, it moves onto the playing field. So this is your active experience. And let's say something gets triggered. The negative emotion or the negative issue moves onto the playing field. You are here, and this is what you want to create, your desired reality. In order for you to get there, maybe you have just started a new workout plan, and you want to, get to your desired goal weight or your desired experience of health and fitness. So you can go hiking, you can play with your grandkids, you can have, a more active lifestyle. That could potentially cause a negative emotion or a negative issue to pop into the playing field that is your brain. When that happens, there's a series of little gopher holes or molehills that pop up. And these come onto the playing field and they add to the negative issue. So when we treat the emotion by remembering, we ask the superconscious to treat the emotion by remembering the sequence of the gopher hills or the molehills, and just by gradually smoothing over the dirt of each of those molehills or those gopher holes, just lightly with a feather in the remembered sequence so that all the holes disappear. So in order for you to get to where you want to go, it's kind of hard. You're going to have to really work extra hard because you've got all of this debris, all these molehills in your active experience, or just, you know, in your playing field. That's when we start to self-sabotage ourselves. But our superconscious is just going to smooth over each of these little molehills just lightly with the feather in the sequence that it was created. And it's just going to leave the wisdom of that experience. And then you're going to be able to take the steps to actually move toward what it is that you'd like to experience. Now, your superconscious is ready, has all the information that it needs in order to treat any type of resistance in your active field. So let's get ready for your first superconscious recode. Now, you don't have to understand this process in order to receive the benefits from it. Your consciousness has been listening this whole time. All three levels of your consciousness has been listening. And that's plenty in order for you to absorb the information. You don't have to remember how it works. All you have to do is just be open and willing. So at this time, you just get to sit back, relax, and close your eyes. Just get comfy at where you're seated, or where you're laying down. I do typically enjoy laying down for this, but I don't recommend it because sometimes you can fall asleep and it isn't necessary. So go ahead and just sit back, relax. Take a big deep breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. And close your eyes. There's nothing for you to do right now other than just be aware. You don't need to force anything. You don't need to do anything, to remember anything. This experience is just for you. Now think about a negative issue, something that triggers an emotional response, possibly something that triggers a sabotaging experience. Some of the different triggers that people have worked with in the past is different comfort foods that they enjoy. When you know that you're really stressed out and you go for potato chips instead of whatever it is that you're choosing to eat intuitively, like broccoli or maybe a salad, there was some sort of emotion that was triggered in you. Maybe somebody said something, maybe it was a thought that you had. Most often that's what it is. So think about something that triggers you. Maybe every time you talk to your mom, you feel really, really crappy. And then that triggers you to actually go and choose some unhealthy foods or to over-exercise, that it's triggering you in some way. Maybe when you talk to your partner, that same thing happens. Or maybe when you think about you don't have a partner, and then you feel like you need to change yourself or fix yourself in order to get one. So think about something that is an emotional trigger for you. If there isn't anything specific coming up around food, you can choose an emotional trigger that is like a fear or a phobia. Something that works pretty well is if you get heightened anxiety around seeing police lights or hearing a siren, that is a great trigger to work with. If you get heightened anxiety or fear when you see a spider or a certain type of bug, that's another great trigger to work with. So choose your trigger, and you want to choose something pretty small. It doesn't need to be something massive, because you want to have something that you can actually measure the results. Maybe you're afraid of heights, or you have a hard time getting in elevators. Sometimes political figures, like I know a few years ago, we had a specific president that was very triggering for a lot of people. Those are great triggers to choose. So choose your trigger. And just notice the trigger and what it is. And now, with your eyes closed, decide the new experience that you want. decide the new experience that you want. So if the trigger is seeing a specific political figure on TV or hearing an ad for something and it really gets your blood going and you just feel so annoyed and frustrated and angry at that person leading our country awry, think about the experience that you want instead. Maybe you just want to feel completely unfazed by it. You just want to feel at peace. You want to feel calm. You want to feel ambivalent even. Like it just doesn't bother you, like it's nothing. Maybe when you talk to your mom and normally you get triggered and you feel so frustrated with her and you feel so underappreciated and whatever it is that you're feeling. Maybe the new experience that you want is you want to feel grateful for her, everything that she's done. And you want to feel content with your life, regardless of whether she approves or not. So just really decide on the new experience that you want. If you have a bug that's triggering you, a specific insect or something or arachnid, maybe the new experience you want is just to have some patience in allowing yourself to get that bug or that insect outside and just releasing it back into the wild and just being able to do that calmly and coolly and just from a collective manner. Maybe the trigger is, your kids are really noisy. They're screaming a lot more than you'd like indoors. And you frequently lose your patience with them. And then you raise your voice and then you're screaming at them. So the experience that you might want instead is you want to remain calm. You want to approach them with a very low voice, very even keel. You want massive amounts of patience. And you want to remedy the situation for the best of everybody involved, yourself included. So whatever your trigger is now, think about the experience that you want instead. And really get into that experience. With your eyes closed, just really get into how it is that you want life to be for you in that moment. Feel it. Feel yourself in that new experience of being calm, being collected, that new experience of being at ease, being patient, the new experience of being in control, feeling powerful, feeling grounded, feeling centered. Just notice the emotions and the feelings and just notice what you're telling yourself in this new experience. What are you saying to yourself? And notice the sounds that you're hearing as you're taking care of this new situation. You're behaving differently. You're reacting differently. Notice what you're saying to other people. Notice how you're holding your body. Notice how it feels inside. And you're choosing something different. Now go ahead and come on back. And think about now how your life is not like that at all. Think about what really happens. What is life like now when you get triggered? Is it something where you just feel out of control and you have to just go to the nearest store and get your favorite brand of potato chips or ice cream? Is it that you automatically are screaming back at that person or that situation? Or you are being composed in the moment and then like an hour later, 2 hours later, you're taking it out on your spouse, your partner, or your kids. Think about what really actually happens. What beliefs are causing you to have that experience? Do you believe that you're in danger, that you are going to get hurt? Notice it. Notice all of the beliefs right now that are coming up. Notice what you believe about yourself, that you're out of control, that you aren't capable of actually dealing with the situation. If you've got something to write with, you're welcome to write it down. You can pause this video if you'd like. But just think about, what are all the ways that you get triggered and it shows? Do you raise your voice? Think about what you believe about yourself every time that happens. Do you regret it? Do you regret reacting that way? Do you regret eating that whole bag of chips? Do you regret speaking to somebody in that tone? Do you judge other people? What are your judgments on others in this situation? Are you afraid of getting found out? Are you afraid of needing to hide and actually keep yourself safe in that way? Where are other people in this mix? You may not have a ton of judgments on other people, but if you are working on a body self-image trigger, then you may have some judgments that you believe other people are viewing you in a certain way. Think about all the different ways that you've reacted like this your whole life, and just allow those to come into your active experience, just pulling everything up. Pull everything up. And think about all the ways that you've let yourself down over the years, because this isn't something that just has happened recently. Most likely this is something you've been dealing with for quite a long time. It doesn't have to be big, it doesn't have to be major, but an emotional trigger usually has been cemented in our experience for quite some time. So think about how long you've actually had this, and all the different ways that you are dealing with that situation. And now go ahead and close your eyes again, and we're going to actually get into the recode. So first we set everything up with looking at our trigger, looking at what we want instead, looking at all the ways that we don't have that now, everything in our current experience that is not that. We're now going to have our superconscious do the work. So sit back, relax, and just notice. Just bring your awareness into your heart. And if you are having a hard time getting situated, or if you're listening or watching this while you're out and about doing different things, just take a moment to bring yourself into your center. Take a moment to sit down, just close your eyes. Bring yourself into your center and just feel the weight of your body being supported by what you're sitting on. Feel gravity holding you in place. Feel your feet on the ground. Just get really present. Let go of all the things that you need to do, all the things that are calling for your attention, and just give yourself these last 10 minutes in order to get the most out of this experience. And just take a really big deep breath in and release out through your mouth. And what that's doing is that's relaxing your body on a more larger scale. You're relaxing your nervous system. And do another big deep breath in. Bring the inhale all the way up to your crown, and then relax and exhale. And you can feel your body relaxing more and more with each inhale and exhale. And inhale again all the way up to your crown. And then exhale all the way down to the bottoms of your feet. And you can just feel yourself becoming more and more relaxed each time. And bring your awareness into your heart. Just allow your awareness to drop into your heart. And if you'd like to place your hand on your heart, you're completely welcome to do that. Just bring your awareness into your heart. And just give me permission to connect to your superconscious. State silently to yourself or out loud, I give Amber permission to connect to my superconscious. Just be there, yes. Conscious, do what's needed to connect me to the field of all people watching this recording, this replay, this video in the future for however long it lasts, connecting me to all the people through space and time in this moment right now. And superconscious, am I connected? Yeah. Choose right now to get the most out of this experience. Choose right now to get the most out of this. Just make the choice inside. It is an active choice to get the most out of this experience. Feel it drop into your body. I choose. Say it to yourself. I choose to get the most out of this experience right now. And allow yourself to be present. You've made the choice. I'll be speaking to your superconscious. I will be speaking to an aspect of you, which is your superconscious. So I will be addressing you as superconscious. You are one and the same. And superconscious, do you see the desired experience? Do you see what the experience is that's been chosen? Superconscious, do you see all of the resistance in the current experience? All the way things are now that is not the way we want them to be. Superconscious, please treat all resistance in the active experience. Do a massive change history and everything is needed. Thank you. Allow yourself to just experience whatever it is. You may feel something, you may not, doesn't matter. Either way, your superconscious is working to shift the resistance, to turn that pain into wisdom. Remove the emotion and keep the learning and the understanding. And superconscious, are all of the parts and personalities on board? Are they on the treatment team to treat this emotional trigger? No, they are not. Superconscious, with the parts and personalities that are not on board, be willing to speak to the superconscious to understand the benefits of treatment and to join the treatment team. Yes, they are. Please have them do that now. Thank you. And superconscious have all parts and personalities join the treatment team. And they are willing to experience treatment today. Excellent. Superconscious, do you see the resistance that the parts and personalities, the protector, the controller, the inner child, the people pleaser, the wounded, the perfectionist part, and all the other parts, the unnamed part, the pre-verbal part? Do you see the resistance there? Please treat all resistance in the parts and the personalities. Do a massive change history and everything is needed. Thank you. Breathing. If you see the resistance in the emotions, please treat the resistance in the emotions. Do a massive change history and everything. Thank you. Just allow this experience to just wash over your consciousness. Allow your superconscious to do the work. Superconscious, there's a ton of resistance in the beliefs, in the identity, the way that I show up in the world, the way that others perceive me, the way that I perceive others, the way the world is not supportive of my best interests, the beliefs around that. Superconscious, please tag all of the different resistance in the beliefs around the self, the others, and the world. Create a treatment plan, and in the perfect way, in the perfect order, treat and do a massive change history, and everything is needed. Thank you. There's a ton of resistance in the definitions, in the way that we label ourselves, the way that we label others, the way that we label this thing that is triggering to us, that is causing us to disturb our peace, causing us to react in a way that we don't want to, that we're sabotaging ourselves or we're lashing out at others. Please treat the definitions causing resistance, causing this experience. Do a massive change history and everything. Thank you. Let's go on back to the original event. The event where the original trigger was created, where the original trauma was formed. Please treat that event, treat the emotions in that original event, treat the present and treat the future. Do a massive change history in the past, present, future, the original event and beyond. Do a massive change history and everything. Thank you. Keep breathing. You may feel energy moving, you may not. Either way, your superconscious is doing the work if you've given permission. Take a big deep breath in and just let it out. And take another big deep breath in and let it out. This is really deep, it goes back really far. Superconscious, there's resistance in the ancestral line, in the family history. Please go through the ancestral line, the family history, and just treat every single instance holding resistance throughout all of the family history. Bring all family contracts to completion and treat any other resistance that's hiding out and inherited from the ancestors, past, present, and future. Do a massive change history and everything. Thank you. Superconscious, treat all broken agreements that are housing resistance throughout all time and space, and treat all secondary intentions. Do a massive change history. Thank you. Just treat the resistance in the events which had happened in this lifetime and all lifetimes. Treat the resistance to this new experience, that is being chosen right now. Choosing of the new experience, treat this resistance to a massive change history. Thank you. Please go back through all events, the past events, present events, future events, and the original event, and treat any resistance, any additional resistance that's still hanging out. Just go through all body systems, through the chakras, the organs, the energy systems, the spine, the adrenals, all of the meridians, the skeletal system, nervous system, respiratory system. Going through each and every part of the body systems, physical and non-physical, visible and invisible, and treating all resistance in the perfect way and in the perfect order. Do a massive change history and everything. Thank you. Take a big deep breath if you need to. And just know that this is working all throughout your whole body system. And if you feel any tingles or muscle twitching or spasms, that's completely normal. Completely normal. Your body is releasing stored trauma, stored pain. It's aligning itself. Superconscious, please go back and do a massive change history and everything after that on any and all last bits of resistance. Anything that's hanging out that is preventing the experience that is being chosen, this new experience of life, this new way of being. Go back and do a massive change history. Thank you. Conscious, go ahead and pull up the choice, the new experience that we want to have. Think about that in your mind right now. Pull up the new experience and just notice, is there any resistance to it now? Maybe it's someone you see on TV, maybe it's your partner saying or doing something, or your mother saying or doing something. Maybe it's procrastination response and you just don't want to do work that needs to get done. Or maybe it's the way you respond to your kids or a coworker. Whatever it is, think about that experience and think about the new way that you're handling that situation. And just notice how much more space there is in your body, in your mind, how much more open you are to acting in this new way. If it's a bug that you chose that you wanted to have a new experience with, just notice how much more effortless it feels to be handling that insect in a different way. Superconscious, please take and treat everything that we've touched on today. Do a massive change history and everything after that, and memories 1, 2, and 3. While shadow memories, tandem memories, picture memories, cellular memories, and all the other memories that we don't have words for. And please ground all changes into the matrix of the universe. Thank you. Take a nice big deep breath and then come on back and open your eyes. And you've now experienced your first introductory recode. Notice how you handle that situation differently next time it comes up. You no longer are going to have the same triggers that you've had in the past. Your triggers are, they've been rewired. You may have felt pressure in your head. Those are the neural pathways actually forming new ways of behaving and being in that situation. So enjoy this new experience of living, and come back to this if you need some additional education. But we're looking forward to having you in Soma Tribe, getting into a creative structure and moving toward your goals effortlessly now that you have a tool to rewire the resistance that you have toward them. We'll see you soon on the next call, and have a great and amazing day. Bye for now.